everyone who hears the name Sophia Loren immediately pictures her on the silver screen, luminous skin, sumptuous gowns, a playful flirtation with the camera that seems to turn every light into a spotlight just for her. The press has often called her the Italian wife of Hollywood or the young bride of a great boss. In advertising, in cinema, and in countless reproductions of her image, she is presented as an ideal doll, a glittering silhouette that reflects the desires of the men who claim to possess her. Yet behind the dazzling facades, behind the bright flashes and the relentless applause, there was a woman whose private life was far more complex, more fragile, and more profoundly human. Who was she when the studio lights dimmed, when the lamplight of a modest Roman apartment window pierced the night, when the world's gaze turned away and only the quiet of her own thoughts remained? Who stood behind the cold, polished sheen that concealed genuine hopes, fears, and contradictions? Sophia was born in the tiny provincial hamlet of Pzarello, a place so remote that most maps marked it only as a dot of dust on the Apennine foothills. Her father, Richard Gianni, was an Estonian immigrant who had fled the turmoil of his homeland in search of steady work in the industrial heart of Italy. Her mother, Maria, ran a modest stall at the local market, selling fresh tomatoes, fragrant cheeses, and the occasional handful of olives that seemed to hold the sun itself. Childhood for Sophia unfolded amid narrow cobblestone streets choked with the soot of nearby factories, where the evening sky was often a bruised violet stained with the steady drift of smoke. The shrill cries of street vendors blended with the rustle of newspaper pages, creating a symphony of hardship and hope. In that world, Sophia learned early to balance the obligations demanded of her family with the yearning that tugged incessantly at her heart. She was disciplined like her older brother, who at 16 had left for Milan to work in a steel mill, yet she possessed the restless spirit of a wind that sweeps across the Tyrrhenian Sea. School teachers praised her prodigious memory and her unquenchable thirst for knowledge, but what truly set her apart was an unrelenting desire to be seen not as a decorative figure, but as an individual with depth and agency. She spent hours after lessons sketching faces, writing short poems in the margins of textbooks, and dreaming of a life that stretched beyond the confines of Pzarello's olive groves. Her first kiss, a fleeting, rain-soaked moment in Piazza della Repubblica at the age of 18, left an indelible imprint on her soul. It was on that very evening, while the city's fountains sang under a veil of drizzle, that a young producer named Filippo Mazone entered the nearby cinema. Filippo, an ambitious dreamer with a reputation for scouting untapped talent, was searching for the next white polar bear for the burgeoning Italian film industry. He was watching a low-budget drama about Venetian handball players when Sophia's eyes met his in the dim glow of the projection booth. In her gaze, he saw a spark of fire. In his, she glimpsed a possible escape from the narrow alleys of her upbringing. They spoke for hours, their conversation trailing from the peppery aroma of freshly brewed espresso wafting from the sidewalk cafe to the unspoken dreams that each harbored. Filippo offered her a small role in a modest stage production, and, soon after, whispered a proposal of marriage. Their wedding was modest, a quiet ceremony in a small parish church attended by a handful of relatives and close friends, yet it resonated with a music that blended two worlds: the raw, unvarnished hope of a girl from the provinces, and the glittering, sometimes brutal reality of the film set. Their union produced a son, Marco, and later two daughters, Marina and Caterina, each becoming a living reflection of the woman who stood backstage of roaring applause and blinding spotlights. Even the brightest stars, however, cannot forever outrun the shadows that encircle them. In the early 1960s, when Sophia had already begun to collect her first international accolades, a storm of controversy erupted around her. While her film Italian Romance played to packed houses in New York, American critics launched a ferocious campaign accusing her of selling wholesale sex and claiming she didn't deserve her awards. The episode, later christened the award scandal, was splashed across the pages of the New York Times with headlines suggesting that her place in history was not among the greats of cinema, but within the sensationalist tabloid's tableau. Her husband Filippo, stunned by the vitriol, withdrew his support and attempted to blacklist her from further projects. The decision left her isolated, the very talent that had once propelled her to fame now a source of bitter loneliness. Yet this rupture did not break her, Instead, it forced Sophia to re-examine her internal compass. Rather than retreat into seclusion, she found solace in the mentorship of a younger actor named Giovanni, whose fresh perspective on stagecraft revitalized her own creative drive. Together, they crafted an intimate theater piece about a simple man learning to love the world without masks, a story that echoed Sophia's own yearning for authenticity. She also began producing documentary shorts that captured the everyday lives of villagers in remote Italian hamlets, portraying people whose existence was measured not by glitz but by the rhythm of seasons and the cadence of communal work. In these small projects, Sophia rediscovered a strength that could eclipse the opinions of critics. Each morning she opened her windows to the breezes of the Needlewood Valley, letting the wind carry the scent of wild rosemary into her modest living room, where creaking shelves held a stack of her father's letters correspondence that chronicled his own adventures as a railway worker and the legacy of a grandfather who built iron tracks across war-torn landscapes. These memories infused her with a tenderness and resolve that became the backbone of her renewed artistic vision. In 1966, that resolve manifested as a triumphant breakthrough. Sophia accepted the lead role in an epic drama set amidst the harsh, sun-baked vistas of Tuscany's story of unyielding love, sacrifice, and redemption. The film premiered in Venice under a sky bruised with storm clouds, and as the camera lingered on her eyes, rain pelted the ancient city, mirroring the turbulence within the narrative. Her character braved a raging field fire, rescued her family from collapsing barns, and emerged at the final scene bathed in golden light that broke through the gray canopy. Audiences saw not just a beautiful face but a visceral embodiment of feminine resilience. The critical response celebrated her not as a metallic doll but as a conduit of genuine power, gifting her the metaphorical red flag that signified her ownership of her destiny. From that point forward, Sophia was no longer merely a muse, she was a director of her own fate. The arc of her life, however, was never a straight line of victories. A few years later, Marco, her eldest son, decided to abandon the cinematic world in favor of an entrepreneurial pursuit. He joined a dairy processing plant in northern Italy, a venture that promised stability but turned tragic when the facility suffered a catastrophic collapse, claiming several workers' lives. Filippo, still entangled in investments tied to the plant, found himself at the center of a tragic controversy. The news cast a pall over the Loren household, an oppressive silence hanging heavy over the dinner table. Sophia, hearing the anguished call of conscience, halted her television consumption, pulled out old family photographs, and resolved to act. She organized a fundraising campaign, traveling personally to the affected region of Tuscany, meeting with bereaved families, and speaking at community gatherings with a conviction that reverberated, "Each of us bears responsibility when the world falls." Her compassion transformed the tragedy into a collective movement of support. She managed to raise substantial aid, provided scholarships for the children of the victims, and became a quiet pillar for those who were navigating the darkness of loss. This episode illuminated a truth that Sophia's cinematic brilliance alone could not capture. Her strength also lay deep within her heart, capable of lifting the burdens that weighed upon strangers' souls. In the late 1970s, another profound shift occurred. The death of her father left Sophia confronting a massive inheritance comprising family businesses, land, and a legacy she had never expected to steward. The wind rustled through the ancient oak trees of their family garden, scattering dry leaves across the marble steps of the old mansion. The loss was a seismic blow, leaving her with a mantle that required both shrewd business acumen and emotional fortitude. No longer merely a wife, sister, or daughter, she stepped into the role of family patriarch, presiding over boardrooms from a massive oak desk, her composure steady, her voice low yet commanding. Her gaze, now sharpened by years of navigating both public adulation and private grief, cut through obstacles with an icy clarity. She balanced the demands of her acting career with the strategic oversight of her enterprises, authoring a series of film projects that delved into spiritual conflict, receiving critical acclaim and further cementing her global influence. Moreover, her philanthropic initiatives expanded, ranging from supporting literacy programs in rural Sardinia to founding a foundation that provided medical assistance to underprivileged children across Europe. While the 1980s brought a wave of new cinematic opportunities, Sophia chose to be selective, preferring roles that allowed her to explore nuanced psychological terrain. In the award-winning melodrama Echoes of the Dawn, she portrayed a war-scarred nurse who returned to a devastated village and helped rebuild a community torn apart by conflict. The performance earned her a Golden Lion for Best Actress, a rare honor for a woman of her generation, and marked the first time she accepted a major accolade on a stage in her native language, delivering a speech that reverberated with gratitude for the ordinary women who silently sustain societies. Critics highlighted that her later work demonstrated an evolution from sensual icon to introspective storyteller, a transition that mirrored her own personal journey from yearning for escape to embracing responsibility. In parallel with her artistic evolution, Sophia cultivated a deep interest in culinary heritage. She collaborated with renowned chef Alessandro Bellini to publish Flavors of Home, a cookbook that combined traditional Apennine recipes with contemporary techniques. The book, illustrated with photographs of her childhood kitchen and handwritten notes, became a cultural touchstone, celebrated not only for its gastronomy but for its preservation of regional identity. She often hosted intimate dinner gatherings at her villa, inviting emerging filmmakers, scholars, and activists to discuss the intersections of art, politics, and sustenance. These evenings, drenched in the soft glow of lanterns and the scent of rosemary-infused olive oil, reinforced her belief that creativity thrives best when nourished by community. The final chapters of Sophia's life exuded a newfound tranquility. As her daughters married and forged their own paths, Marina becoming an acclaimed fashion designer and Caterina a respected art historian, Sophia often retreated to a tranquil villa nestled within the Aragon Park. The cool breezes whispered through the ancient olive trees, and the fragrant jasmine infused the twilight air, creating a sensory tapestry that reminded her of time's inexorable flow. She spent long afternoons reading letters from old friends, penning brief notes about dreams that now seemed too expansive to be trapped within a screenplay. The natural world surrounding her, a chorus of cicadas, the distant echo of church bells, the subtle shift of light across the hills served as a living reminder that everything in the world passes, yet memories endure. She reopened a weather-worn diary from her youth, chronicling reflections on family, articulating a desire that her children remember her not for trophies but for honesty and tenacity. Even as age dimmed her physical agility, her eyes remained sharp, her mind keen, still scanning each scene of life with the discerning gaze of someone who had witnessed both the heights of fame and the depths of sorrow. Beyond the personal sphere, Sophia's cultural imprint rippled across continents. Film scholars in universities from Buenos Aires to Kyoto dedicated dissertations to her influence on the construction of femininity in post-war cinema. Fashion historians cited her as a catalyst for the Italian Renaissance of couture in the 1960s, noting how her wardrobe choices sparked global sales of silk scarves and fitted gowns. In 1992, UNESCO invited her to be a goodwill ambassador for the preservation of intangible cultural heritage, a role she embraced by traveling to remote villages to record oral histories, ensuring that fading dialects and folk songs would not be lost. Her advocacy earned her the Order of Merit of the Italian Republic, an honor she accepted with a speech that emphasized collective effort over individual glory. We are all authors of a story that stretches beyond any single frame. When she turned 80, a massive retrospective titled Loren, A Life in Light and Shadow, opened at the Palazzo dell'Esposizione in Rome. The exhibition combined original film reels, personal artifacts, and interactive installations that allowed visitors to step into recreated sets from her most iconic movies. A particularly moving piece featured a mirrored corridor where the viewer's reflection blended with projected images of Sophia's younger self, symbolizing the dialogue between past and present selves. The event attracted over 500,000 attendees, affirming that her narrative still resonated with new generations. And yet, when we return to the images that have woven the myth of Sophia Loren into popular culture, we can state unequivocally, Sophia Loren was never merely someone's shadow or a victim of countless blows. She was a woman who assumed the role of creator rather than simply a spectator. She constructed her existence from a mosaic of fragments, each piece deliberately placed to form a cohesive portrait where every hue represented a decision she made, not an imposed stereotype. Her legacy persists in small moments: a gentle hand guiding a child across a sunlit park, a hushed farewell whispered to aging parents, the resonant timbre of her voice in critical cinematic climaxes. Most importantly, she showed the world that true beauty springs from the strength of spirit. If you wish to immerse yourself further in this extraordinary saga, I highly recommend watching the biographical film Sophia Loren, Life Unmasked. The picture masterfully captures the atmosphere of her era, from the bustling streets of Naples to the intimate terraces of Italian villas where she found inspiration. Additionally, the documentary Italian Goddess offers interviews with contemporaries who reveal previously unseen facets of her personality.